What if I told you that the patterns within your family are not just psychological or sociological, but they're energetic, and they are not just energetic, they are crystallized thoughts and forms of energy that live within your physical presence as well as in your auric field. And what if I told you that your mother's survival strategy didn't just influence you emotionally, it landed in your energetic field and has been playing out in your life this entire time? And I point to the mother's survival strategy because that is the person who more often than not was supporting you as a child in surviving. Your survival was tied together. Oftentimes, the outcomes of children whose mothers are not in their lives or not available is not necessarily positive. There's always exceptions to the rule, all right? But oftentimes, the survival of the mother is imperative for the survival of the child. And when you are younger, we know that, we sense that. Oftentimes, I feel like we as humans try to set ourselves outside of nature and say we are not animals. We are animals. We may have set our lives and our entire societies outside of nature, but we are nature. And in nature, there is a relationship, a symbiotic relationship between mother and child, and there is this need between the mother and child. The child needs that mother for food, quite literally, as mammals, shelter, care, safety. So your mother's survival strategy imprinted within your auric energetic field and crystallized your energy set point in the way that you go out into the world and survive. That frequency is set. It can be changed, but that frequency became your energetic set point, and the set point became the place in the space where all of your life unfolds from. This is often why, even if you know better, you can't do better, because you are still in this energetic set point, regardless of what you think. So what is an energetic set point? That is, you could say, your base. It's the base of the frequency that you put out into the world. And if your base is always here, your mother's was here, her mother's was here, her mother's mother was here, and everybody's energetic base is here. And you at one point in time in your life, you're like, I kind of want to spread my wings. You're going to have a hard time doing that, okay? Because think about what survival looked like. You don't know what you're going to get when you take the leap. You only know what you will lose. And if you come from a place where everybody was just trying to survive, people are going to think you are absolutely crazy for wanting more, because they couldn't even imagine more. This is something I was thinking about the other day, is trauma survivors may feel like they are aiming high, but what they are aiming for is the basement. But the unfinished subfloor basement looks good when you're in a submarine and the pressure is changing and a little crack in the submarine is going to have you go down. So here, trauma survivor, childhood trauma survivor, you're shooting up higher because you just got to get out of the submarine. The pressure's kicking in and it's about to crack. And once you get to the basement, hey, it's looking pretty good. You're not surrounded by water anymore. And now your whole family is telling this story how they used to be in a submarine and now they're in the basement. And you're like, hey, there's like stairs over here. There's there's stuff up here. There's more. There's daylight up there. And they're gonna be like, daylight? I don't even know what that is. I don't know what that means. Because the basement looks pretty good when you were faced with drowning. And then how do you grow the capacity to take up a whole house? When you were just in a submarine, now you're in a whole basement. At least you have a basement. But this is the mind. This is the mindset, the energetic set point of a survivor. of somebody who's just trying not to drown. And so when you have that, it is really difficult to take more risk. Changing your energetic set point is a risk to someone who was just surviving. Thriving seems unreasonable to people who have just been surviving. And that's why you get the, who do you think you are? All the things that you get for wanting more. So what did it look like when your caregiver was just surviving? Did they shut down? Did they fix things? Did they try to manage everyone's emotions? Were they so disorganized that things always fell apart or never worked out because they were always just disorganized? Did choices get made based on the disorganization rather than like getting it together? Were they bad with money? You see, these patterns are based on an energetic set point. It's why even when people make more money, they end up in the same place. There's something else going on. And this is why we have to look at the energetic set point before we start trying to change anything. Because often people jump into trying to fix themselves. First of all, you don't need to be fixed. Second of all, if you jump into trying to change things, you're going to end up in the same place because you are not looking at what needs to be looked at. And that energy will just cycle back around and you will end up in the same place. Because you didn't look at the energy. You didn't look at the dynamics going on. So, for me, there's a yin yang that goes on. And what I mean by that is like, there is an inverse and opposite reaction and action that flows into each other. And when one grows, the other one lessens. And when the other one lessens, the other one grows. And somehow they kind of fold into each other, okay? And you'll see this in the energetics of family dynamics where one person is a super saver and they save everything, but maybe they save so much that it's to the detriment of the family. They save so much the kids can't go on field trips because they gotta save. They save so much to the point of self-deprivation. And then you have another person in the family that's like, you could spend money, you could spend. But they spend so much money that it gets to the point of self-deprivation and the kids can't go on field trips. You see how that works? We're on the opposite ends of doing things, and yet somehow we end up with the same outcome because energetically it is the same thing. It is an action and a reaction to an energetic set point that will continue to play out until you recognize the actual issue. And that's the thing we don't understand about energy, is that it is always a set point. It always comes back, and it does not disperse until you see it. These patterns are not going to change until you actually look at them. They will be in the background sabotaging everything you do until you notice and see them. That's why starting with the energetic is important. And the thing with that is that these patterns are underneath everything. They're like an undercurrent of energy, okay? And that undercurrent is playing out in the way that you breathe. That undercurrent is playing out in the way that you stand. That undercurrent is playing out in the way that you show up in the world, in the way that you ask for a raise or don't ask for a raise, in the way that you are a people pleaser in this relationship, or the way that you're a perfectionist in this relationship, or in the way that you're demanding in this relationship. They continue to play out subtly. And you will think you are getting a different response. And again, you'll see this like with the money thing. You'll see this where someone says, oh, my mother or my father chose an abusive significant other. They yelled and screamed all the time. And like, I'm not doing that. So I'm going to choose a significant other. And then somehow it ends up being that they're somehow very much the opposite of the abusive parent. And they end up playing out the same scenarios as their parents' relationship. in their relationship, just in inverse ways, because you cannot outrun energy. You cannot outrun patterns. You cannot outrun the ancestral inheritance of the energetic set point that you are playing out. And the only way to shift that energy and to change that energy is to see the energy. Oftentimes we think because it's the opposite of what the parent had or what this person did in the family, we tend to believe that it's different. But then you look at it and you're like, wait, this is the same thing. Why am I living their same life? Because energy is underneath everything. You did not choose your default frequency. This isn't something you choose. This is inherited. It's passed down through your family lineage for the most part. Sometimes, depending on your childhood circumstances and things like that, your inherited frequency is a developed set point frequency from drastic and sometimes not drastic experiences in early childhood as well. But for the most part, the set point is set and inherited through lineage, okay? And because the pattern is so familiar, you will continue to unfold and play it out in the same way you always have, because it's inherited. It feels comfortable. Oftentimes, if it feels too comfortable, you're not growing. You are simply walking around the same room that you've been in, thinking that it's changing because the view changed. But it's the same room. You can paint it. You can put flooring down in the basement. You can finish the whole basement. At the end of the day, you still don't have daylight. It's still not upstairs. And it still hasn't changed. And until the internal energetic experience changes, the external is going to stay the same. You're going to have the same lover with a different face. The thing is, though, these energetic set points are survival strategies. Okay, we may be energy and everything may be energy, but we live in a physical realm and we have to survive. And we have to survive until we can get to a point where we can thrive at all. And so recognize that, again, if you've been playing out the same scenario for years and years and years, it's a survival strategy. And if you don't know that you're even playing it out, you're not going to be able to change it. You don't see it. And that's okay. But recognize that this is just you trying to survive like everyone else here. Now the question becomes, is this strategy working for you? Is it working for you now? Did it work for you in the past? And with this frequency of energy, is it taking you where you want to go? Because if you're fine with the basement, then no one's telling you to change anything. But if you're here and you're this far, you probably want to change the energetic set point of your life. And so it probably isn't serving where you want to go. So what happens is a gap opens, okay? And I find this with any kind of work that you're doing to begin the shift, is that you start to see that where you are is not going to get you where you want to go. And this gap opens up. And that gap is the distance between the person you need to become in order to shift out of the energy that you've been living in. And that is where the discomfort starts to happen. Because where you are is not enough, and where you're going feels so far away. So this week, I just want you to sit with, whose strategy are you running? Really? Is it your mother's strategy? Is it your father's strategy? And is it serving you? Is it serving you? Is it serving you now? Did it serve you in the past? And there's no need to fix anything in this moment, because the only thing you're sitting with is this serving me? is my energetic set point of where I am and the frequency I'm inhabiting? Is that serving me right now? Maybe it's not entirely yours. Maybe this is a part of your ancestral inheritance. And maybe it's time to shift it. And that's okay too.